Hello friends. Recently we've been updating a lot of the lines on the boat as we get the boat ready to do some more adventures. And when we're working with the lines, a lot of times we'll just make a knot when we need to join something temporarily. But in the case of, say, a halyard that raises our sails up, for those things we need to put a eye splice where we join the rope into making a little eye that we can then put a shackle on that will help hoist the sail. So to do that, I've been learning a new skill, and I'm going to share that with you. No, this is not going to be a tutorial. I'm not a pro, but I did want to share this with you. I thought some of you might find it kind of cool. Let's get started. This is a Samson rope called the XLS3. This is a double braid, and we'll be doing a class 1 eye splice. So we'll be using our Samson splicing manual. I use the New England Unifid splicing tool, which has 2 different size splicing fids, and then a gauge here for you to do your fid measurements. Now a fid is equal to 1 fid length is equal to 21 times the diameter of the rope. We'll be using 1/2 inch, or actually 12 millimeter is what this is, but the closest in our scale is 1/2 inch line. So we'll be using the 1/2 inch marks. We have our Sharpie for marking out our line, tape for keeping it together, and the various other tools we'll be using, such as scissors, cutters, and a knife, and then some whipping tools for when we bring the eye splice whipped at the end. There is some really awesome YouTube videos out there from the people over at Samson Rope. I strongly recommend, if you're doing any Samson ropes, that you watch their YouTube videos. The manual's nice. I like having the reference, especially say if we were having trouble with the Starlink, or I needed some other reference point other than online. The manual's nice, but their YouTube videos are very well done and really show you everything. So I strongly recommend that. I'm going to put a link up here for the YouTube video for making this eye splice if anyone wants to get into the real details of it. Now we're going to get started. This was coiled by West Marine, so it is sort of a bit of a mess. One of the big things our mentor Steve always taught us is, one thing to keep in mind is whenever you pull on a rope, there's 2 ends. So you pull on one end and the other end moves. So that's really helpful when trying to get some of it released here, is if I can't find where it goes, I can kind of push, and there it is. And kind of untangle it. So you don't want to be fighting the bitter end while you're trying to make your knots. So I'm just going to pull out enough here to get it ready. Now this is double braided polyester, so it has been heat sealed. So we are going to first have to cut off about probably about a 1/2 inch, just to get to a clean bit of rope where the core has not been melted yet. So we have now marked our T for taper, and all of our taper marks where we're going to remove threads to taper later. We have our reference mark and our X mark to form what will be our eye. It's about the size eye that we're going for. And so now we're going to pull the core out through X and start work on getting everything spliced together. Extracted our taped core from our cover, and we have gotten our marks for mark 1, 2, and 3. So now we're going to feed the cover into the core, then we're going to feed the core into the cover, and that's how we start making the eye. Reference mark and our X mark meeting, and so we have formed our eye. Now the eye splice, unlike a knot, retains 100% of the rope strength, so we don't lose any of this rope's effectiveness by putting a knot in it. When we put the eye splice in, it retains all of that main strength. Now we are going to whip this. I use Dyneema whipping line to do a lock stitch, and that will keep it from coming loose down the road. So that's the next step. So the lock stitching procedure is pretty straightforward. The idea is that you're going to run a line of twine in a zigzag pattern through the parts where the eye is spliced to keep the two sections from separating. In our case, we're going to be using a very high tensile line that's called Dyneema, and because of the thickness of this line, we're going to run 3 strands of Dyneema for our lock stitch, which will be pretty much overkill, but this should keep it from ever having to worry about it separating. splice is now complete. We have got it lock stitched with the Dyneema stitching. This is going to be a very strong eye splice. Should not open up on us, shouldn't have any issues with it. Tomorrow we are going to connect this to the gross line that is wore out on the mast, and we will run this up the mast. So we'll take a look at that tomorrow. Good morning, friends. We are up bright and early today, and we're going to get that line replaced. Now, it's a bit windy out today, so I may have to re-voice over some of this. So this is the line we're going to be replacing, and as you can see, it's just sort of gotten old and wore out. It's brittle. Don't really think it's at the point where we could just clean it and bring some life back to it. It's had a whole lot of chafing going on. At one point it was longer, and the original owner had to splice in an actual extra loop that was clipped in here to get it to the proper length. So we just want to start over with something fresh that's not sort of coming apart. Now the line runs all the way up the mast. Let's see, it is right here. And it goes to the top there where there's a special pulley called a sheave. Then that sheave drives it into the mast where it comes down. Okay, so with the thickness of the eye splice, we won't be able to run it from the bottom up, so we're going to have to actually cut this off right here. And then we're going to splice these two lines together, and then pull this line up through the blocks and leave this part tied off down here. Okay. So we've taped the line we're going to cut, prepared our whipping twine, got our tape and our new line. This is a tough part because I always want it to be as smooth as possible so it doesn't get hung up in there, but it also has to be strong enough that it doesn't come apart while you're pulling it through the mast. So we've disconnected the bad line. Now the last step is to place a stopper knot in the end here so that this line can't go back through that exit and disappear inside the mast. So I believe this one is called an Ashley stopper knot, but it's just one I've gotten to like very much. I like the way the knot feels. Get a little bit more length. And now we have our Ashley stopper knot, so it can't go back through the exit gate.